So one can see, and I will share it with you, all the different people who, some of the nationalities that were there present in Prespa, in the same places that we are now implementing our projects. And unfortunately, this is also with what is contemporary history. This is a soldier from Senegal. These are from Vietnam. Actually, in a way, they say that some of the Viet Congs learned how to fight in the mountains of Florida. These are from Bulgaria. These are also from Bulgaria. These are Russians. These are Greeks. These are from the North Africa, Moroccans and Algerians. These are Russians. These are again from the north part of Africa. These are French. These are Turks. These are again from Senegal. You can see how the camels were also extensively used. This is in the center of what is now Florida. Next time, maybe I will bring a photo of exactly the same place, the way it is. This is a Serbian cemetery. These are French doctors. And these are again from Indochina. As you can see, they were driving this chariot. So that was a very small teaser, let's say, that I wanted to share with you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Ermina Apostolaki. I'm a scenographer and researcher working at the intersection of spatial artistic practice, embodied memory, and site-based performance, approaching spaces as active archives that shape how histories and identities are perceived. Today, I will speak about walking as a feast for the senses, healing memory and belonging in Vrontero, a workshop that took place last July in the village of Vrontero in Prespa during the International Prespa Walking Arts Encounters. As we have discussed in previous meetings, the Prespa region functions as an open laboratory, a field where body, landscape, and experience merge in unexpected ways. The program for tonight's meeting refers to Sitao's no-method method, drawing an analogy with walking practices and suggesting that meaning often emerges from direct experience rather than fixed structures. This framing resonates deeply with my practice to site-based work and my approach. Walking is not a method I have regularly employed, but for this workshop, I chose to integrate it consciously into my practice as a way to explore how movement, attention, and embodied presence can open different pathways into the histories held within spaces. In Vrontero, this approach found fertile ground. The landscape holds traces of displacement, return, and quiet endurance, and engaging with it involves both conceptual intention and embodied negotiation. The walk was shaped to support that combination by introducing a slow, site-responsive process that invited participants to attend to the terrain and the histories it holds. In my original proposal, the walk was conceived as a participatory, community-rooted experience. I imagined a structure that blended local storytelling, a shared meal, sensory activations through herbs, textures, and sound, and a collectively shaped format in which residents, participants, and myself would co-create the experience. The intention was to explore themes of displacement, historical erasure, and belonging not through narration, but through collective presence. I envisioned the walk taking form through local voices and lived knowledge, an exchange rather than a guided tour, treating community insight as a living archive. This was the conceptual foundation of the proposal, and choosing to work through walking created an opportunity to test how such ideas might unfold in real time in direct relation to a landscape marked by displacement, return, and long-standing social and political histories, a terrain where memory is not separate from space, but encountered through the traces of past and present. The final workshop remained aligned with the core premise of the proposal, but shifted in form. What had been envisioned as a shared, collectively shaped encounter became in practice a more guided, artist-led walk due to infrastructural constraints and timing limitations. Local residents were part of my preparatory field work, but they did not take part in the walk itself. This was a meaningful deviation, and I will return to it. The walk unfolded through 5 curated stops, each weaving together a local herb or plant, its medicinal, culinary, or emotional associations, fragments of folk songs from Western Macedonia, and a short micro-performative text that combines historical research with intuitive dramaturgy. These elements were selected to create an encounter with the landscape's layered histories through sensory attention and spatial dramaturgy rather than through explanation. Participants were invited to walk mostly in silence, with moments of breathwork, sensory grounding, and attentive observation. The silence was not strict. I allowed the group to meet the landscape from where they were, balancing gentle guidance with openness. As we walked, specific layers of the site became more apparent, from the traces of past conflict to the absence shaped by displacement, along with the subtle material signs of weather, migration, and former inhabitants embedded in the terrain. Several participants noted afterwards that the walk created a temporary threshold, a moment where body, place, and story aligned. For me, this reinforced how walking can operate not only as a mode of movement, but as a political and relational gesture, slow, embodied, attentive, and grounded in the particularities of the site. This brings me to the reflections that feel most important to share with this group. First, while the sensory and embodied dimension of the walk was successful, I became more aware of the limits and possibilities of artist-led silence. Some participants wished for stricter silence, others benefited from a softer, more flexible approach. Both responses are valid, and they raise questions for future iterations. How can silence operate not as a rule, but as a shared agreement shaped by context and by the group's needs? Second, the absence of deeper local involvement. This was the most significant deviation from the proposal, and it points to a broader challenge that arises whenever we work with communities to which we do not belong, or even with communities we once belonged to, but from which our present circumstances have created distance. Sustained engagement requires...
One more minute.
Yeah, I'm finishing. I'm concluding. Sustained engagement requires time, care, and supportive structures, conditions that often exceed the scope of short-term artistic visits. This is not a failure of intention. Rather, it is a reminder of the ethical dimensions of working in historically charged sites. My role shifted from facilitator to narrator, not because the concept weakened, but because the surrounding conditions required a different approach. Third, the experience reaffirmed how vital slow sensory walking can be for encountering a place like Vrontero. To conclude, walking as a feast for the senses sits within my wider artistic investigation into site-based scenography, memory networks, and the politics of space. This workshop opened a pathway for walking to become a meaningful creative tool for me. One that can deepen how I read and respond to spaces shaped by complex social and historical dynamics. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ermina. Thanks for keeping the time. We will have a discussion at the end of that, at the end of the session. So Lydia will continue.
Thank you, Yannis. I have quite a few images that I'd like to show, so I'm wondering if I could share my screen.
You can share, yes.
Okay. Okay, so give me 1 second. Okay, is that coming through?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to tell you about the workshop that I gave last summer called Through the Eyes of Foragers, Gift Gathering. But in order to do that, I think I need to back up a little bit and give you just a little bit more context for how that project evolved out of other times. One thing that you should know is that my parents come from a village that's about 45 minutes from Prespa. So the region is familiar to me, and I've been coming to Prespa proper for almost 10 years now. But when I first got involved with the Walking Arts Network, the Encounters Group, I was particularly interested in the historical complexity of the region, mainly because the Greek Civil War had really had its epicenter there, and because my family's departure from Greece was based on that. So I was really interested in trying to make sense of this very complex history. And so I created this walkshop called Ghostly Matters, a walk through the Greek Civil War, mainly because I was working on that. I was trying to make sense of it, and I wanted the bodily experience of visiting the sites that were engaged during the war. So the walkshop prompt was really about how do we make sense of these things? How do we take an archive with us, a kind of mix of historical publications, personal stories, and the body as an archive to try to sort through it all. What I then began to be more interested in as I spent more time in the region was the profound insights that one can glean from the ecology of the region and the way in which people are working together across transnational borders to try to manage the lakes and to live more harmoniously with nature in that region. So the next time I thought, I don't want to just take my own work in, I actually want to find people from the region and other places who can inform me, who I can learn from, and we can make the walk together. So these were my collaborators. I turned to a soil biologist because I was interested in the space of the commons where the land and the water meet. So Nikos Theodoropoulos, who lives in the region, also Julian Hoffman, who's a natural history writer, and also Evgenia Tsianou, who has an organization called DISCO and does a lot with citizen science. So together we worked for, on and off for a few months in advance to talk about how we might approach this. And the one of the walkshop prompts was really about how the shoreline can be a commons for human and more than human species. So because that was the topic, and I won't tell you more about that because I want to focus on this last summer, my interest in thinking about what the land can teach us and what other people from other disciplines, and particularly scientists and artists, when they come together, what can happen, I realized I wanted to learn how to do foraging in the area. And so out of that came the idea of developing a collaborative team. Again, I invited back the people I had worked with before, Yanis Yanakis. Yanis introduced me to a local mycologist and a mushroom hunting guide, Nikos Theodoropoulos. Nikos introduced me to his two hound dogs who became our collaborators, Avra and Mocha. And also Mrs. Petrula, who you see here in the on the right side, who is one of the co-proprietors of the local village hotel in Agios Germanos. And I think for me, through the eyes of foragers, whether human or more than human species, when you're looking through those eyes, Prespa becomes a landscape that offers a potential feast, a vital apothecary, and a wild playground. And walking as a forager really becomes an opportunity to attune our eyes differently to various flora and fungi that exist both above the ground and below the ground. So foraging, like the locals' healing and culinary arts, are time-honored skills that are derived from intergenerational knowledge and research. They're activities that long preceded cultivating the land. So to forage successfully, however, it's very important, essential really, to develop a better understanding of the local soil conditions and the climate, as well as attending to Prespa's current cultural context and seasonal rhythms. So this is why I envisioned this workshop as a learning opportunity, really, to bring together and collaborate with multidisciplinary folks on this foraging walk, followed by a cooking lesson where we use the materials that we gathered, and a communal dinner. So we began really with, inspired by the writing of botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's an indigenous scientist. And what we did was we started the walk doing a deep listening exercise at the sacred grove of very rare juniper trees on Mount Divos. And I brought in a recording of Robin Wall Kimmerer reading from her book, The Service Berry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. I have the link here, and I hope you can hear this. I'm just going to play 1 minute of this so you can get a sense of how her words were really core to how the prompt proceeded.
There beats the heart of gift economies, an antecedent alternative to market economies, another way of organizing ourselves to sustain life. In a gift economy, wealth is understood as having enough to share, and the practice for dealing with abundance is to give it away. In fact, status is determined not by how much one accumulates, but by how much one gives away. The currency in a gift economy is a relationship, which is expressed as gratitude, as interdependence, and the ongoing cycles of reciprocity. A gift economy nurtures the community bonds which enhance mutual well-being. The economic unit is we rather than I, as all flourishing is mutual.
So we heard quite a lot more of her piece, but that really is where the workshop prompts emerged from. And that was to gather gifts from Prespa's typography while learning from one another.
Lydia, 1 more minute.
To practice ethics of reciprocity and to reimagine alternative currencies of exchange in the field and around the kitchen table. So I'll just show you what happened with the dogs who are trained to be truffle hunters. There was a kind of incredible ability for them to sniff out these things that were living under the ground. We learned a lot about what was happening beneath the soil from Nikos, the other Nikos. And basically, I'm just going to kind of give you a feeling. Obviously, the dogs use their nose more in order to find their things. But we, once they were dug up, Nikos shared these with us so we could use our noses as well. And we found a lot of these things on that walk. We also talked with one another, reflected, and we also gathered this golden flower of St. John's wort, because that, as I will show you later, is a medicinal plant. And later that afternoon, we gathered again in Agios Germanos village. We walked to the water mill, gathering nettles. And you see, looking at plants to try to determine which leaf was the right one. And then we took all of this material back to the hotel where Mrs. Petrula was prepared to teach us how to make a nettle pie.
Lydia, we have to conclude here.
Okay.
Already 3 minutes past.
Okay. So let me just go through the pictures very quickly so you can see this. We made the medicinal balsamo, St. John's wort oil, and we ate the meal ultimately. So the gathering was very much about bringing the community together as well as bringing the materials together And I think what's most important to think about here, and I'll leave you with this, is that learning to gather wild botanicals and to prepare and enjoy local recipes is a deeply pleasurable form of engaged curiosity that helps us shift the most basic and fundamental ways we belong to a place. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you very much. Now we go to Viv's Corringham. Viv's, I will not say that. Viv, welcome. We are very happy to have you with us again.
Thank you. So I did a workshop which I called How Far is Home? And I did it in Sarades. And I really wanted to create a walk that would look at the difficulties and also the element of luck or chance inherent in walking home, perhaps returning to a home that was destroyed or lost, or searching for a new home. There might be dangers and difficulties that would force the walker to walk very quickly or slowly and very carefully, or it might be necessary to continue walking when you're really exhausted and you need rest. So then there might be other people walking to find a home, but in this project, each walker was alone. So in order to recreate the element of chance, I gave each participant a dice, and each of us selected 5 points within our fairly immediate location. And these were our safe places on the walk where we could rest a while. And our task was to each make a solitary journey through all these 5 points. And our speed and our length of stay in the point, the safe places, would be determined by chance. So before we started walking, we each threw our dice, and it randomly determined our speed of walking from one safe place to the next. And in this case, 1 meant you walk very quickly, and 6 meant you walk very slowly. Then when we arrived at each of our safe places, we threw the dice again. And this time it told us how long we could stay, how long we could rest at each point. 1 meant almost no time, 6 meant a very long time, and all the numbers in between were obviously, proportional. So in this section called walking, our paths frequently crossed, although each person was walking alone. This was a small group because there were many simultaneous or overlapping workshops that morning. But I was very happy to have a child participating who did it with great attention and great understanding of the task. And I think that to an onlooker, this would have been an interesting spectacle. People moving purposefully as if in a strange dance, fast and slow, crisscrossing each other, but not interacting. And I noticed that some participants emphasized the dance-like element, which was very nice. So the final section of the workshop, which I called Home, was based on Pauline Oliveros' Heart Chant, which is, she was the founder of Deep Listening. This focused on healing, how walking can bring us together to a place where we heal ourselves and other living forms. So when everyone had completed their solo journeys to all their 5 safe points, we moved together into a very close circle. And this was really about arriving home and being together. So for the heart chant, we each placed one hand on our own heart and the other on the back of the neighbour to our left, behind their heart. We stood very, very close together. And we breathed in the place, the beautiful nature and the living world. And we began to chant Ah together, finding a pitch that resonated our hearts, making a group resonance of all our hearts and imagining sending out this healing energy to the world. And, this was pretty simple. So that's really all I have to say about the process. Just to say a little bit about the heart chant. I saw a message there from Chris, who participated. The heart chant was just gorgeous, even though there were only maybe 5 of us doing it. Because the task is really to be really honest about it and really work to find the resonance where you can feel, you feel the minute you've got it, because you just feel your heart vibrating. And I guess I was a bit disappointed that the local population didn't come in and get involved. I wasn't surprised because there were so many things going on that morning that they probably didn't even see it. But later, I was very happy one of the evenings, probably after a fair amount of eating and drinking had taken place, that there were a whole group of people, huge mixture of people in the main square. And at the end of it, we just spontaneously all stood in a circle and I did the heart chant again. And that was absolutely gorgeous. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Viv. Thank you very much. We continue with Chris.
Yes, hello. I have a few images that I could share as well. I'll share screen here. Hopefully everyone can see that. So the work that I was able to realize with the collaboration of various walkers was called Drawing Cartographies of Perception. And we'll go right into it. Try to stay within the 8 minutes here. So the idea behind it was very much, something's echoing. Oh, there we go. Sorry. So the idea behind it was very much on the theme of the pluriverse, which was one of the themes of the conference. And I have a little blurb to read here about that. So we coexist in a space of multiple worlds, seen and unseen, noticed and unnoticed, existing simultaneously in the same physical space. Each of us navigates the world uniquely, guided by what we observe, value, and interpret as significant. This workshop explored the personal and subjective nature of navigation and cartography and the diverse ways which people perceive and move through space, using the acts of walking and drawing as primary methods of investigation. So for the structure of the workshop, participants walked alone, but worked in pairs beginning from a central meeting point. The workshop unfolded in 3 stages, and something went really weird in my slides there. That's way earlier than it should have been. Sorry about that. Mapping the journey is the first walk. There we go. Mapping the journey was the first walk. Mapping the journey. Each participant set off alone from a central location with the task of drawing a hand-drawn map of their journey as they walk to a personally chosen or discovered destination. The destination was to be guided by a search for significance, to find something that resonated with the walker along the way. The maps could use landmarks, symbols, impressions, and all were drawn with the knowledge and intent that their partner will later attempt to follow the same path. Participants were asked not to use any written text or labels, as their maps were encouraged to engage in a practice of looking through drawing and communicating without words. Once they completed their map from the starting point to the point at which they found something significant to note, they returned to the central location. And that's where the second part of the walk happened, the idea of following another's perception. So upon returning to the central location, participants exchanged maps with their partner. Each participant then set out alone again, this time following their partner's map to locate the significant thing to be found at the destination. Their goal was to attempt to find the location indicated by the map and then draw what they perceive to be significant when they arrive. So this stage introduced an element of interpretation and ambiguity. What are clear directions for one may be vague to another. What one person finds meaningful may not be obvious to another. Participants were encouraged to embrace this space of potential poetic disconnect and to move forward in good faith and with their best attempt to understand the other through what was offered. And then the final and third part of this walk was the idea of reconvening and reflecting. For that, all participants gathered one final time to share their maps and their stories and drawings of the significant thing that were found at the destinations. The discussion centered on differences and overlaps in perception, orientation, and meaning, highlighting the plurality of experience in navigating these shared spaces. So some of the conceptual foundations and core ideas of this workshop, as we look at our kind of impromptu exhibition of the maps that we had at the workshop. So this workshop drew inspiration from several projects that explored subjective experiences of navigation and connection through drawing and exchange. It referenced Ben Buckland's trek across Switzerland, during which he relied solely on maps drawn by strangers he encountered along the way. In Nobutaka Iozaki's From Here to There, Manhattan, a project where the artist assembled a composite map of Manhattan using only hand-drawn maps provided by strangers. The act of map making and following unfamiliar maps draws attention to the personal biases we carry in how we see and navigate spaces. Drawing maps and observations by hand encourages a slower, more engaged way of seeing, shifting participants from text-based direction following to visually driven navigation. The inevitable gaps, distortions, and interpretations inherent in using someone else's map and interpreting someone else's idea of significance became a poetic exploration of communication. What we convey, what is missed, and what emerges in the process. This process reflects the essence of the pluriverse. As participants, we engaged with a multiple coexisting perceptions of the same shared space, revealing the layered and diverse ways we make sense of the world around us. And these are some of the results of this workshop provided by the participants in our impromptu exhibition. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for everyone to be here to share in that, and also for everyone that was there to share in our time together in Greece. And I look forward to hopefully everyone that I see on this screen to seeing them in 2027.
Clementine and hello, Clementine.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it is me and Claire today who are going to be presenting the Walking with Children program. It's very nice to see lots of faces again, and thank you for having us. I will share some images here. So I don't know if they're going to go full screen, so maybe a little bit just going through them on my desktop, if that's fine.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's great to see everybody and so many people on the call. We wanted to kind of start by just talking a little bit about the kind of intention and inspiration for the Walking with Children strand in Prespa in 2025, which came out of kind of discussions that Clementine and I have been having around walking with children more generally. And I guess we wanted to do two things with it. We really wanted to think about different ways to engage with local communities in Prespa. And we were both kind of interested and excited to think about how both creating workshops ourselves that were suitable for children to join in with, but also making that as a strand of the encounters that was kind of explicit in the invitation and the call for proposals, would make that space that we could promote and kind of actively engage families and children with. But also thinking through that, how it might make the encounters for artists and scholars and people who are joining internationally, make it more feasible for them to participate if they had children as well, whether or not their walking artwork was intended to be for children, that the fact that there was this programming strand would kind of make the space more inclusive.
Yeah, so we thought, I mean, maybe lots of you saw us with the children in the square, or maybe some of you joined some of the workshops that were part of the program, but we thought to share a little bit on the process of how we decided to build the program or begin this pilot, because it really was sort of a pilot. We were figuring, I mean, it was my first time also in Prespa and on joining the conference. So it was also figuring how to engage with the children that we didn't know. We didn't know what sort of ages were going to turn up, but find a way to also bring the rich program to a group of children that we assumed would be there. And so we began with just going through the many amazing applications and trying to highlight from the information that we had whether the walk was going to be child friendly or not. And it was a lot about just noting that access point of this walk is possible to bring your child to. And then sort of creating a program that was gathering these walks, and we feel there was probably many more walks that we didn't realize could have been children, like accessible for children, but based on the information that we had, we sort of put some together. And then it was getting a program that we could actually share around, firstly to also the international community, and say, look, if you're coming with children, we've created this program. But then also we sort of made some printed copies. And when we arrived in Saradis, we went around and started introducing ourselves to the children, to the parents, and sort of saying that this is what we were doing. And this is sort of an image from the first day where we got the children to make their own conference badges. They very much felt that they were part of the program. And then, and some other sort of, let's say processes that we had was just creating a WhatsApp group so that everybody who had children could know what was happening, and then actually just turning up and every morning going and greeting the children and finding them and telling them what was going on today. So we were kind of sort of working on the ground. We didn't really necessarily had a clear plan of how it would work, but there was probably about maybe 12 children in Saradis who were joining regularly, and of sort of different ages, as you can see here. They sort of wrote their ages, and then additionally another sort of maybe 12 children joining who had come from the guests of the conference over the sort of course of the time. And yeah, we wanted to then just like highlight some of the workshops that we had as part of the program.
Yeah, so I led a workshop, which was called Intergenerational Walking Recipes, which invited people. You can see the red book that's like held in an action shot there, which is a book that comes out of my research into kind of walking and community connection. And so we experimented with some kind of walking recipes from that book before creating some of our own recipes. We had a really interesting mix of people from a spread of generations on that walk, and we had a kind of really beautiful exploration and discussion and a series of experiments that talked about safety and risk, and balance and falling, around kind of creativity, walking and not walking, and some really lovely new walking recipes were generated, which Clementine and I have got plans to make as a kind of book of walking recipes for Saradis or for Prespa, which is a kind of potential strand to go forward. I don't know if...
Claire, one more minute, okay?
One more minute. Okay, I'll transfer over to Clementine then.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go quickly. I mean, we were going to see if Athanasia was here to present or share her own workshop, but did an amazing workshop with the idea of the following the bear traces and bringing the children closer to the animal life that was in the area, mainly because the artist students had found this skeleton of a bear and brought it into the school. And then we went back to the ceramic studio to paint and reflect on it with the children. This is the workshop that I shared with the program, which was a walk and play games around the world as a means to also reflect that we had many people coming from different places, and how did walking come into game playing. So we played Grandmother's Footsteps and Don't Walk on the Cracks, and various others, and people were from the workshop were sharing how maybe rules change dependent on their memories and where they were growing up. Here's a massive hopscotch that we made through Sarades. And then we just wanted to share Peter Schroeder's game that was created as well, because this was one of the workshops we put in the program, because it was intended to be creating lines from walking, a playfield made by walking, and then he had to switch it up because the playfield was not as he imagined, but actually created something really beautiful that can be played by the children, continue to be played by the children in the village.
And maybe just to close, perhaps we'd just like to say that we would really love to continue working on this theme and on this strand. And we feel like the kind of participation with local children in Sarades and of the children who came from further afield made a really beautiful and productive space. And actually, I feel like that's typified in the final walk that we had in our program, which was inspired during the week, which was when one of the children decided that they wanted to lead a walk that would be called Walking with Adults. And they recruited several of the other children from the village and from the group to come and to take groups of adults on walks. And that kind of, I think, was the perfect close, and actually more than we could possibly have kind of imagined as a positive outcome. So we would love to think on, if anyone would like to get in touch with us, if they're interested in working on this theme or on this strand for us for 2027, we would love to think about how we could continue to kind of empower and activate children's agency in their walking and in their creativity through this strand.
Thank you very much, Claire and Clementine. Thank you very much. Now we conclude this session, this part of our meeting with Kel.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much, Alice. It's lovely to see you all here. And some very familiar faces. I'm going to talk very briefly about a walk home. We managed a walk home that was started in Prespa a couple of years ago. It was an unattached walk, a walk without expectations. It was a walk basically back home along an invisible line, directly home, which led to unknown spaces, unknown places. It was a journey through space and between time passing and time arriving. The walk took place on a wonderfully warm day. It took us past all manner of unexpected places. The places were determined, they were provocation points. They were a time to pause, to reflect on the journey home. And the walk was started with the intention not of actually achieving the walk finally to get home, but following an invisible line.
The second part of our meeting, which is people who have been in Prespa for a number of times, a number of years, either locals or artists who have been who are not only working for the walk, but for other venues as well. So we will have two approaches. The one is from Nikos Theodoropoulos.
So good afternoon for me. These are the kindest words, and it's really nice seeing you all tonight and having a chance to present a few ideas on Prespa for the upcoming conference of 20 Encounters of 2027. I also have a slideshow to share through my screen, so in case anything goes wrong, just please give me a notice. I'll try to just write now. Okay, right. So, can you all see the screen I'm sharing? Can you all see the notes, the PowerPoint I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Great. So, I'd like, most of the times I've been talking as a historian of some sort, but right now, tonight, I think I will take a little detour and share my own reflections on a place I consider unique in Prespa, based on the idea of the 7+7 places for the upcoming encounters. It's, of course, the summit of Despotiko on Mount Varnoundas. And because of me, it represents a sort of lookout point and triggering reflections on issues such as the relationship between history and trauma. And though mostly empty of human activity, it's exactly this feature that offers this place its unique character. And I mean the capacity of its nature to seemingly transform a gaping wound to an image of healing. I will be sharing then some features of the landscape, walking you through the path I have in mind and that we undertook, and concluding with a few thoughts on how, as far as I understand it, this place could spark some artistic projects in the area. So, Mount Varnoundas, of course, is the also known as Baba Planina, is the long mountain range that you can see stretching from North Macedonia on the outskirts of Bitola all the way down until to the line between Florina and the village of Pisoderi. From Prespa, it's the massive you see rising above Agios Germanos, with its mostly bare peaks, among which the highest is on the Greek side, at an elevation of 2,334 meters or 7,600 feet. At the Greek side, the highest peak is Despotiko, also known by several other names. The thing is that along these ridges that also mark the borderline between Greece and North Macedonia, you can still see jagged trench lines resembling stitches on a human body, as in this picture. These lines run all the way down until to the eastern side of Mikri Prespa. They are the remains of World War I fortifications, and it's still not entirely clear whether they were built by French or Bulgarian troops, though most likely it's the latter. And at the time when this whole region was part of the Macedonian front, which you can see on this and this map. So in the summer of 2022, a team that included me, Yannis Yogas, of course, Stefania Veldamiri, and a few others had the chance to walk up the summit of Despotiko. And we started at a route, here it's highlighted in yellow, about 3 kilometers outside the village of Agios Germanos near a cow pen. From there, we climbed up to the mountain pass just before the final ascent to Despotiko, which is still seen here in clouds, and then followed the ridge westward all the way to the summit of Baltan, and before descending toward the stream next to the dirt road that leads back to Agios Germanos. In the absence of marked trails and almost no vegetation, we had to rely on reading the landscape, for example, picking out occasional isolated trees or shapes in the terrain. And the ascent itself, which took about 2 hours, demanded a lot of physical effort. Trekking poles were essential for the steep slopes, and sturdy hiking boots, which I then did not possess, but they would have made a big difference, especially on the way down. Despite its difficulties, I think this path is open to even people who are not seasoned hikers, as long as they are willing to push their bodies to a central limit in order to reach this strange meeting point of histories and lines. And I'll explain myself, because lines is what I think this place is about, after all, some form of line. First of all, a trench line. I mean, these were lines that were dug up by two armies with almost no connection to the region. I mean, France and Bulgaria. And they were armies preparing themselves for a battle which never took place in the area. Outside patrols over a few months, a brief period of 3 months. And if this already sounds like pointing towards the futility of war, let's also consider the fact that this conflict seems to have left no real trace in local memory. Unlike the Civil War of 1946 to 47, or Cold War experiences of political refugees crossing the border, there's no shared remembrance of this World War I front. It is as if walking uphill here becomes a metaphor for stepping outside the collective memory and brushing against some kind of covert trauma. The second type of line is, of course, a borderline. Nowadays, this ridge is part of the borderline between Greece and Northern Macedonia, but their signs the only signs that you're crossing from one state to the other are technically the old trig point pillars, which, as you can see, bear the name of a ghost country. That's the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. So, indeed, the past emerges as a foreign land, and ironically, in a quite literary sense.
Nico, 1 minute more.
Yeah, we also happen to come across packs of horses roaming on the mountaintop freely, never approachable, yet always claiming a distance from us, whether in Greek or in North Macedonian territory. A local would later explain to us that it was their mating season, so they were left free to roam there. In my mind, they seemed like a past flowing into the present as irony. A past impossible to grasp and transcending horizons. The third and final type of line is a wave line, oscillating between the past and the present, which is, I think, its most captivating feature. I mean, the imagery of going back and forth between different states in every sense of the word. Free as the movement of those horses between the movement towards the self and the other. It was at that very moment that I realized how these trenches, seemingly wounds from the past, only needed a moment of ascent to be perceived as stitches initiating a process of healing. Would it be possible then to look for a reconciliation in a place so empty of people? I don't really know. But I think this could help as a guide question for an artistic project. After all, I tried to show you how this place might trigger a multitude of reflections on otherness, on the self, on the fluidity of history, the persistence of trauma, but also on healing as a tedious and demanding yet fulfilling process. A place, after all, that is unfolding its scars onto its visitors. Thank you.
Now we will conclude this session of the second, and then we can have a discussion with Vangelis Strempenis images. She has a difficulty to connect with us. He's in Sarades now. I will make the slideshow. It is above Askitaria, next to the Albanian border. This is an abandoned place where they were keeping the sheep. You can see how high is the vegetation. Usually they were bringing the sheep that they had. So Vangelis showed me this place where he brings he's making coffee. This place is a place of his retreat. These are the two kinds of oaks in the area. He showed me this. This is the field. He brought me there because for him this is his track. It is a place where he finds peace of mind. And he can narrate stories for every single one of these trees because he's going there for a number of years. And during the weekend, he brings the family as well and friends. This is made out of ores, and this is the trademark of the place. And the reason why there is all this high grass is that there was a plague in the sheep this year in Greece, and most of them had to be killed. So they could not go out in this area. As you can see, this is Albania, this is Greece on that side, and this is the field. So when we ask, and this is what he says when he drinks his coffee. Speaking about the locals, for me, this gave me an example that we don't have to look only on the big stories and some thrilling, but very simple everyday life incidents. This is the track and this is Vangelis, where people, as every one of us, needs a place to rest, so to say, and reflect and try to regroup out of the difficulties, because we have to say that the locals, and this is also a difficulty when we try to do projects with them, is that they work very hard. Most of them work in 4 or 5 jobs, let's say. They cultivate the land, they have the cattle, they have something like a family, small business, tourist business like a taverna or a coffee shop, and they fish. So they do fishing, farming, they have the cattle, and they have a small business at least. Plus the fact that they are family persons, so they have to take their children to schools, they have to take them to classes of piano, of teaching them English languages that we all have. So sometimes when we go to them and we ask them to make projects, this has to consider the everyday life of them, and that they are like everyone in any other place. So for each person of us has a place to rest and a place to reflect and regroup. That was the place of Vangelis.